Hi there.
Hello,
Hi, Chief Furlong.
good evening.
Good evening.
M. Oh, who is M?
Melanie Drayton, that's me.
Oh, I kind of liked M. You very mysterious. You could like Prince or Sting or something like that.
Yes. Well, maybe one day I'll have my own moniker, but I'm not that famous yet.
You said yet. That are you planning that? Or?
Never know. Still young. There's time yet.
There you go. All right. Well, we will, I guess, wait while the troops gather here.
Chief Furlong, do you ever have issues with having to worry about people in the cold?
Yep,
So what happens then? Do you have to actually send people sometimes out and get them to warming?
yes. So
Yeah,
that's Johnson School is our shelter. We would use that for a
right.
shelter.
Yeah.
Um, we could also use the library for a warming station.
hmm Yeah, I remember when our power out went out on Willow once and it
Yep,
was super cold. It was great. You sent people by
yep,
to check on us and to say, we'll take you to the school. I mean,
yep.
it was very reassuring.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah, we were able to go to my brother Chris's house, but other people, that's important. Good.
Certainly is.
Today I was thinking was cold.
Bad enough.
It was cold.
Yeah, and windy.
Yeah, I mean, it actually wasn't that cold, but it was windy, is right.
Right, it was the wind.
All right. Do you know if Dan is planning to join?
I think he is. There he, there he is.
There he is.
Yep. We need somebody to take minutes.
I know.
Uh-oh.
And right now, Dan is the last one joining, so he's the minute taker.
There you go, Dan.
Okay, what do I have to do to not have to be the person to take minutes ever?
Don't be the last one into the meeting.
No, you're going to have to do it. We're going to keep rotating.
Fair enough. I'll get some paper.
And we've got Barbara's template now.
Oh,
So,
terrific.
yeah, remember? He sent it to us.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And we should welcome Allison back too.
Oh, where is she?
She, so, Allison, where did you go? Someplace warm, I hope.
I don't even see her.
She's down at the bottom.
Without a camera.
I just see Aust. Oh, there.
Yeah.
No, I don't see her. Oh, there she is.
Sorry, I'm here. I'm here.
Where did you
Oh,
go?
We went to St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Beautiful.
10.
Yeah, we just got back really late last night. So,
Oh,
yeah, our flight was delayed with all that wind and stuff that you guys had up here. So it was a little rough flying into Boston yesterday, but the trip was really nice. We were there for 9 days. So,
Wow.
hmm
and did you go snorkeling? Did the kids learn how
Oh
to?
yeah, I've never seen so many turtles snorkeling before. It was awesome. Stingrays,
Yeah.
turtles, a ton of fish, and Really, really fun. I took my niece and nephew came. They're 9 and 6, and I took them out snorkeling, and we all had a great time. So
And
my
St.
And
son's
the
John,
still
reefs,
a little too young for the snorkeling.
are the reefs still okay? The reefs haven't gotten degraded?
I think they have. I've never been to that area before, so I don't know what they were like before, but they're very protective, of the reefs, and they tell you to wear like, sunscreen that won't harm the reefs and things like that, and not to step on them. And there's all sorts of signs everywhere. So I'm assuming that they have. And then actually it was a little bit rough. The water was a little rough while we were there too. So I think, that has been wearing down on the reefs too, as well, the currents.
Yeah. Were there those horrible lionfish that are eating the reef?
Oh, and that I don't know. I don't know about the lionfish.
They look pretty. They're all red but they're
Oh,
terrible. They're
oh yeah.
destroying reefs. Yeah.
I don't know much about them, so no.
Let's be hopeful.
Yeah,
St. John, I think, is one of the nicest
it was
islands.
really pretty. We've been to Tortola a bunch of times, but I've never been to St. John. It was very pretty. I very much enjoyed it. So now I'm
It's,
back.
it's off the beaten track enough that um, it makes it kind of special.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's like the Cruise Bay area, that's their commercial district, but we rented a house, so we were kind of out of the way, and we had to drive up all those switchback roads, and it
So
was
you were
really
up
pretty.
on Bordeaux Mountain then.
Yes. It
Yeah.
was, we had an awesome view. It was pretty.
Yeah.
Happy to be back though. Get back
You,
into the
right.
swing.
You left what 80-degree weather for this, and you're telling us you're happy you're back.
Yeah, well, I usually take vacation around this time every year, and I always say when I come back, it's going to be spring. It's still really cold here though. But we only have March, and then hopefully in April it'll start to warm up here.
It's like that scene in Cool Runnings when the Jamaicans get off the airplane
And
and
they're frozen.
yeah.
That's a fun movie.
All right. So it is, I don't know what time. What time is it?
6:37.
6:37. We do have a quorum. So present from the Finance Committee is Vanderslice, Beatty, Rayton, Bell, Dan McMacken, Deborah Warren. I guess that's it. Tim, are you official yet? Do we count you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. So there we go. And we have some guests. We have Austin Antrim, the fire chief. We have Chief Furlong, chief of police. We have Tony Barletta, town administrator, and Allison, the town accountant. And I think that's everybody, right? Right. So meeting of the Finance Committee is in order. Barbara, you had asked to let police go first immediately.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the floor is yours.
Okay,
Or
do you
is the
guys-
police department's at any rate.
I'm sorry.
Or the floor belongs to the police department team, or however you've orchestrated this.
Tony, did you want to
I'll,
kick off?
yeah, so I'll just introduce Chief Furlong, who, not only is our police chief, but is also our EMD director. And, in general, I think if you looked at the numbers so far, all of our departments are almost level funded this year. Most of the increases you'll see are due in salaries are due to collective bargaining agreements, which we've been lucky to, or worked hard to agree to some pretty great collective bargaining agreements with police, fire, and DPW this past year. I think the agreements that we ended up with show, our unions, that we support them, that we're trying to be competitive to retain them. And also, stay within the limits of the financial ability of the town. So Allison and I really lead the charge with those negotiations. You'll see as far as on the expense side, like I said, it's very tight budget this year. As I talked about in the last meeting, on the operational side of expenses where we're funding money with general fund appropriations, we had to be conservative in our expenditures this year. I think we're kind of in a gap year because of the Coast Guard housing. We have no revenue coming in from there, and we haven't sold them yet, as well as the short-term rental bylaw that was amended on the floor at last year's town meeting, eliminated, a good percentage or a good amount of revenue from the local hotels tax. So, plus with the collective bargaining agreements, and this year we have myself, Chief Furlong, Chief Antrim, and Allison are all in our final 6 months here of our 3-year contract. So we're currently negotiating new contracts for us 4 as well. So we're kind of in a tight year. So you'll see there's not a ton of increases in anybody's budget. And the chief, as well as many other department heads, worked closely with Allison and I to find ways to trim his budget or level fund in areas in an effort to help the bigger picture of our budget. So I commend him and our other department heads. He'll walk through his budget for you. And then just also I wanted to just mention on the emergency management piece, Chief Furlong has taken that department and has already revolutionized it and is continuing to do so. This past year, he brought in MEMA director Dawn Brantley to the town of Nahant, which isn't, an everyday thing. She spent a few hours with us, and it was excellent exposure for us as a town. Him and his emergency management team attend a number of conferences and regional meetings to get information and procedures and just do a ton of work to help us be in the best position possible for every one of these storms that are predicted to hit us. Luckily, so far this year, they've been duds for the most part, except one. But either way, the chief and his team are, at managing our emergency operations center from start to finish, not only to be there readily available to manage point on shutting down roads or dealing with any types of shelter operations or helping residents out or, communicating with National Grid or the state, whatever might come up. They're also keeping track of all hours spent, resources spent, all that data that we use to then advocate for FEMA damage money to make repairs and to be reimbursed for the unexpected expenses that come with those storms. It's a major additional responsibility on him. And I just wanted to, I think it's something that we've talked as a group about, emphasizing the importance of that because it goes hand in hand with climate change preparedness. So that's it. That's my lead in. There you go. Take it from there, Chief.
All right. Does anybody have any questions right off the bat? Okay. I can go right down the line. I don't know how you guys want me to really present this. It's pretty much straightforward. Like Tony said, a lot of them, the line items are level funded. There are some increases in certain areas. I guess the biggest one of the biggest would be capital. And I don't know if anybody's ever, I know Tony has purchased a vehicle recently, but um, it's just through the roof as far as new cars. And then on top of the new car, it's about $20,000 worth of equipment to put in a police car. So that's why it's extraordinary this year. So between that and I'm drawing a blank, a generator for the police department and the emergency management. The current one that we have does not power the whole building. So in the event of an outage, dispatch is the only area that will be powered partially. So having emergency management here in an emergency operations center, I feel as though it's overdue for an upgrade to that machine. Likewise, that machine is in good shape. It's been maintained well, and it can be repurposed. I'm pretty sure the library does not have one, so they can have that. Some other bigger expenses, I had to go up in medical expenses and physicals, just like everything else. Excuse me, everything went up. All the prices went up. I had to send somebody for an eval recently, or this year anyways, and it came in under just $5,000. So that's why you see the increase there. Again, not to harp on everything going up, but dues and memberships, police equipment allowance, the cost of everything has just gone through the roof. There are certain areas that we were able to cut. For example, shift differential, we went down significantly. That's due to Sergeant Waters retiring. He obviously is getting paid a higher rate, so the person that replaced him is getting paid a lower rate. So I felt that's the area that we could do some cuts. But again, everything else is pretty straightforward. I don't know if you guys want to ask specific questions.
Chief,
Yes.
Chief, maybe you could talk a little bit from a higher level, outside of the numbers, but about, police reform and, how hard it is to, how everybody's like hiring and it's hard to keep people and, some of those struggles that you and I talk about in our one-on-ones.
Yeah, it is just like any other industry. The law enforcement world is struggling to find good people. With police reform and the creation of posts, which as an administrator, I think it's a blessing, but it set higher standards and people just don't want to meet those standards. So they're either just not coming to the job or they're not following through with it. Our reserve officers were on the third year of a 3-year renewal, I guess you could say. All our reserve officers had to get trained up through the Bridge Academy, on top of going through medical exams and other things. So it's a struggle. I get guys and girls trained here, and they are now looking at other places to go. So now I have to start thinking of backfilling their positions.
So how many positions do you have to backfill at this time?
Currently right now we are full staff, but I spoke with an officer who is looking at a couple of different departments to go to.
I know we've talked in the past that there was a review process that you were going through. You had, inspect reports and inspections, a state review process. Is that still going on?
Yes. Yep.
So where are you in that now?
This is the third year of that. It's a 3-year process. They broke up offices by last names into groups. So I think I spoke to the lady at Post the other day. She said she thinks April I'll be able to push everyone else, the final 3 through. But then it's just a 3-year certification. So then essentially the first group that I put through, I have to put them through again.
They have to go through again?
Yes. It's a 3-year certification, much like being an attorney or something like that.
Yeah, I see. And the department, was I thinking correctly that the department as a whole has to have some kind of a,
We're supposed to be at the very least certified. So the current organization that most police departments in Massachusetts use is called MPAC. There's a 3-tier. There's self-assessment, there's certification, and then there's accreditation.
And so where are you in that process?
Unfortunately, we're still stuck in the self-assessment. I am in the process of redoing all of our policies and procedures to meet standards. And I actually have 2 employees going to a specialized training next week to figure out how the process is done. So they're going to come back here and hopefully we can make it to the next level.
Good, because I know that's been in the works for a while.
It has.
So that's good to hear that you've got people who will have had the specific training, and then they can come back and help with, because there's going to be there's a lot of forms, right?
A lot of paperwork, yes.
I also want to give a shout out to the chief.
Thanks.
For he works on his own to secure grants for traffic control. And chief, you can speak to the numbers, but even just this past summer, we were able to bring in an additional officer to patrol and pay for it through a grant at no cost to the town.
Yep. I'd be remiss to not recognize Mariana, my administrative assistant. She does a phenomenal job. She finds the grants, and within 10 minutes, all the paperwork is filled out. So she does a great job. And I'm actually looking for, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think the traffic grant was either 30 or 50,000. I don't recall.
Nice.
But it was definitely, we geared it towards the summertime when we get busy, and we were able to put an extra person on the road. So that was huge.
Speaking of that, I have a question. When it comes to ticketing cars, are we going up in our income from that?
I believe the fines for parking tickets went up.
They did, okay.
Yep. And I got the numbers from Allison. Last year we wrote $30,000 worth of parking tickets.
Oh, that's good to hear. Keep them coming.
And that speed sign at the beginning of town, it also does traffic counts. And we look at that, we monitor that data. And just for reference, this time of year, we probably average about 80,000 cars a month coming, going past that sign. That jumps to 150,000 cars in June and gets even higher in July, and then starts to come back down in August. But that helps illustrate how much more, work gets put on the police department in the summertime.
Does that also flag which ones, not which cars in particular, but that a car was speeding? So
yes,
we could say whatever, 20% of the 80,000 cars were speeding when it went by.
Yep. It gives us all that data.
Interesting.
So, Chief, I have a question.
Yes.
Line by line through your budget, you had referenced the vehicles and the equipment in them. Are you on a regular replacement schedule for the vehicles? So is it like every 3 years that would hit the budget to say we're rotating out 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars?
Correct. It's usually we get 1 car each year. And yeah, I don't know how familiar you are with these police cruisers, but once we get them, they run 24 hours a day. They get beat on. They take a beating. Unfortunately, the Fords don't hold up as good. That's probably why they're so cost effective. I would love to go to Chevys across the board, but we just can't afford it. So,
what's the difference in price?
Probably between 5,000 and 10,000 more.
Well,
I have a question, and
well, no, wait, before we leave this. So, is there $5,000 or $10,000 of value in that?
Meaning that, Chief, would that 5,000 prevent you rotating a car out every year to maybe rotating out every 2 years or 3 years?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or 18 months. It doesn't have to be in the 12-month cycle.
Yeah. I guess that's a possibility, yes.
So if I can understand this, if the life of a vehicle is, say, 3 years, what if it is still passing stringent inspections? Do you still adhere to that 3-year cycle, or how?
Yeah, so it's not 3 years exactly. So we have several cars. So the oldest car in the fleet gets traded in.
And that's after 3 years, usually?
Not 3 years necessarily, no. So we have 5 cars. My car, my take-home car, doesn't get traded in as frequently as the line vehicles.
Okay. So back to Melanie's question, would it be helpful to talk with chiefs of some other department from other towns' departments and find out about a comparison of the Chevys and the Fords?
Oh, I have. Like
have
they
you
have
done
bigger
that?
budgets.
Excuse me, I know, but to whether or not you get longer use, what Melanie was talking about, you get longer use so that the extra money would be worth it.
Yeah. I can absolutely talk to several chiefs and get more data on that.
I think that would be a helpful thing to do. Because it's something, if that's going to help the budget in the long run, then we should be maybe thinking about moving in that direction.
Okay.
We don't know.
Right. So,
I mean, just simple. If how much do you spend on, how much are you budgeting for a cruiser this year? About
we have the numbers lumped together. I think it was 74,000.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, so you're talking if every sixth year you don't have to buy a cruiser, but you spent an extra 10 grand years 1 through 5. I guess you're talking about maybe $10,000 to $15,000 in savings.
Yeah, and it's not every 6 years; it's every 3, though, isn't it?
No, he's got 5 cruisers and he replaces one every year. So it's a 5-year rotation.
Roughly, yes.
Chief, question for you. I know that you put a lot of equipment into the cruiser. To the extent, to what extent is there obsolescence issues that getting the new cruiser and the new equipment addresses your obsolescence issue as opposed to the car wearing out?
Good question.
So the big thing with the equipment, it's not that they go obsolete. The manufacturers change the body style. So what we have in one cruiser now, in 5 years, it's not going to fit in a brand new car. If that makes sense. So
that's how they make money.
Exactly.
We did do that until Ford changed their new body style on the Explorer. I know you were taking the equipment from the old vehicle and putting it in the new.
Yep.
But now you can't do that anymore.
There are certain equipment that we can carry over, such as the computers, the radios, the radars, but like the center consoles, the back seats, the cages, that all changes.
Do you happen to know whether the Chevys are more accommodating for bigger new equipment?
They're definitely bigger. As far as the police vehicle, the police packages, they're pretty the same, pretty much the same. I personally feel that Chevys hold up better.
Would it be worth, I don't know if this would be a problem to have them not be all the same, but would it be worth it to buy one Chevy so you'd have it in-house and then you could compare?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, maybe that's something to think about. What do you think, Tony? I mean, it's more money.
But we have one. We have what do you have? 4 Fords and 1 Chevy Tahoe
So
that make that 5,
I got 2
and then
Chevys
yours,
technically.
yeah, minus yours.
Yeah, right.
But for the rotation there, it's 1 Chevy, 1 Tahoe, and 4 Explorers,
Correct.
and that Tahoe was the previous Chiefs
Chiefs. Yeah.
take home, and we rotated it down when we got a new one for you and got rid of the old Tahoe that was part of that rotation.
Correct.
So he has one mixed in. I mean, I'll defer to the chief. He knows his fleet better than I do.
Yeah, the one that is mixed in has fared better than the Fords. When Ford stopped making the Crown Vic, I'm going back a few years. Then they came out with these Explorers. The first Explorer we got, we had to change out the transmission in like within 2 months. So ever since then, it's been left a bad taste in my mouth. But I wish they never got rid of the Crown Vics because those were, you just couldn't beat those up. You couldn't kill them.
So what? Is there a way to get something more than just like anecdotal evidence?
I'm really not sure.
I would defer to the chief's judgment here. It's not as though there's a Consumer Reports that does exhaustive destructive testing on cop cars. I think we pay the chief to do a good job, and he does a good job. I just soon defer to the expert.
Okay, I agree.
But it does sound like it might be worth trying to get the next one to be, maybe not this cycle, but the next one to get a Chevy, and see then whether or not it does last longer, because it obviously depends in part on the specifics of our town, our usage, etc. But that might be worth running the experiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Tony, from your remarks, it sounds like you're at least open to considering this, and I'm maybe taking a stretch that we can find some money should we decide to go this way.
Yeah, I don't know. The chief would have to figure out, get a price on
Oh yeah, yes.
a new one and what the difference is. Something like this, we use free cash to fund the chief's capital line item. So, all the free cash is currently accounted for. So we'd have to, I think we'd have to figure out where we're going to pull it from. That free cash is used for capital items, and then as well as, investments into our reserve funds. And we use the remaining amount to put extra money towards debt.
Yep.
So it's just I guess, Chief, if you don't mind looking into it, and then we can go from there.
Not at all.
I'd like to just caution on one thing as we look towards relocating a good serviceable generator to the library. We will incur some cost to do electrical disconnection, reconnection, and the high-speed switch that is not currently present at the library. So there'll be some costs there, probably the best part of $5,000 to move it up there. And the question there is in the event of a power failure, how much reading is going to be done by the residents of the town, and that generator will require ongoing maintenance and ongoing attention. And it sounds free, but it's not. I just want to caution that as we evaluate this, it's certainly worth evaluating. And if we want to spend CPC money or something like that on it, it should be a discussion item.
Is the work something the DPW would do, or is that a professional electrician that's got to do it?
Professional electrician and gas fitter.
that's right. Yeah.
And this is to give us so that we'll have two warming stations, right?
Essentially, we could use the library for a
Right.
warming station or a cooling station
Right.
in the
So
extreme weather. Yes,
it gives us one on either end of town,
correct.
which is also good, so that you've got them that way.
Why did we pick the library?
Well, the town hall, the library is our only other public building that doesn't have, I think, backup power.
Already, you mean?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, cooling station also. Right.
Is the cost to decommission and recommission in the budget?
To not recommission up at the library, no. Not in this budget, anyways.
Okay.
We would probably use professional services either out of the library budget or out of the police budget, you know, because we're going to have to bring in an electrician and a gas fitter to set up the new one at the police station too. So we'll just probably see quotes from them to do, you know, both jobs at the same time.
All right. But we may want to add that. All right. Other questions? If not, I do have a question, and I'm going to share my screen so you whoops. Can you see that?
No.
Yeah,
No.
Um, oh, this is Zoom. You have to push that button too. That should.
Yeah, it's coming up.
here we go.
Yeah.
So this is, and this is thanks you to Tony and Allison. Um, this is an Excel version of the budget worksheet, which is in that Dropbox now. That's where I got it from. So thank you. And first of all, I want to just confirm that what I think I'm looking at is indeed what I'm looking at, right? So this is the police department budget, and I'm focused right now on that column J. So it's the variance between what I assume is the department administrator's requested budget and the selectmen's budget. Is that right? Do I understand it right?
Yes.
Yep, the difference between what was requested and what was provided.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess my question is, if you look at the differences, especially all these negative differences,
Oh yeah, we can explain that.
yeah, they're all personnel related.
We had a retirement, and it was just the initial numbers that came in from the police department had an extra full-time person in their budget because it didn't factor in the replacement of the retiree with the new employee.
I'm confused. It didn't remove the now retired employee.
Right.
So it doubled up. It had both the replacement and the person that had retired.
Yeah, that was a
Right.
clerical error on our part.
Okay. Okay. So it's
Right.
not like we've cut a person. Well, we have, but the person didn't belong there in the first place.
No, and actually they're in not to the penny there, but what that shows you is kind of the reduction in salary expenses from a 30-year sergeant retiring and a, you know, is wholly a patrolman two or
Yeah, step two.
a step two patrolman. So there's a big difference in salary between those two positions. So there's some savings when, you know, when a 30-year employee leaves who's at the higher end of the wage scale and a new employee comes in at the lower end of the scale.
Okay. And but do, how do we make up for the difference in experience between those two people?
Well, we are having actually a sergeant's exam this Saturday. A veteran officer is taking it, as well as a newer officer, but hopefully the knowledge that they can bring to the table, whoever scores highest and does best on the oral board, hopefully can replace that knowledge and experience that Sergeant Waters left behind.
Okay.
And so what Allison did was estimated the fiscal year 25 cost of either one of those employees moving into the sergeant's role based on, what type of education they have and other stipends they would get. And then we budgeted for the higher cost so that we're covered in either scenario.
Okay. So we're assuming in the budget that we will have a new sergeant.
Yes.
Okay.
There's currently 3 sergeants in the department. 3 sergeant positions,
Right.
and one of them is vacant at the moment.
Do you have a
The
cap
screen just
on
went black. Oh, there you go.
Chief, do you have a cap on your officer positions? Like you only have so many lieutenants, so many sergeants, etc. And what is?
Yes. So there's 12 full-time police officers, including myself. There's 1 lieutenant, 3 sergeants, and 7 patrolmen. I'd love to have some more patrolmen. Just throwing that out there. So as stated in previous FinCom meetings, the town goes 56 hours with only 1 patrol officer on the road. I know that's going to be a huge uptake on the town to finance that. So it's just I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it.
Is the workload discouraging applicants or risking existing employees, putting them at risk of leaving?
I don't. For the first question, the workload for new employees, I wish I knew what this new generation is thinking as far as taking jobs. But it's not just the law enforcement; it's across all industries. But the concern with guys working now is when we only have 1 person on the road, we have to sometimes call Swampscott for backup. We can call Lynn, but having worked in Lynn, they don't always have somebody to send. So it going into a domestic by yourself is we train to at least send 2 guys. That's at the academy, but we don't have that luxury, and it kind of stinks, to put it bluntly.
Do you ever have a system where you have one guy who's on shift and then another guy who is on call, as opposed to going to Swampscott if needed?
So we don't actually. I think that would probably be a contractual thing.
Right.
Chief, that's you.
Yeah, I've responded from home several times.
If we get backup from Swampscott from time to time, do we offer backup to them, or is there a compensation? How does that work?
There's not really compensation, it's more of a mutual aid. But if we have people to send, yeah, we'll absolutely send. For example, when Danvers St. John's had their active shooter, I sent a couple of officers up there. So it's just a mutual aid thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to scroll slowly through this, mostly for everybody. Police capital. So this 88,000 is primarily the new cruiser.
Correct.
Okay. And then we get to fire department. Uh, Um, any more questions from the group?
No,
Oh, I have one, and that is, um, Chief Furlong, have you talked with Chief Antrim about, because I know they have on call, and you're saying you don't have on call, right?
So it's not that we don't have on call. We have obviously emergency alert system that we use. If something, for example, the untimely death of the three people on Cottage Street,
Right.
we send out a page and people come in. But
Okay.
it's on an overtime basis, so it's not. I might have misspoke earlier. So yes, we do have some type of
But
method to get people in, bodies in.
it's not like you have identified, oh, you are the on-call person for this block of time, though.
Correct. We do not have that type of method. No,
Not a scheduled on-call. It's just who's ever available.
available.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Thank you.
It sounds like you guys are thinking about the DPW's standby setup.
Yeah. Well, I guess the question of the hour is, would it work? What's the benefit of it? The on-call person is typically only paid if they are called and respond, question mark.
Well, would that work though? Because if the person has to be available, that's asking more than
Yeah.
just, you know.
Well, Chief, you have different officers who are trained in certain different aspects of the job. Um, whether it be detective or hostage situation, different things like that. And you've been in situations where you have to call guys in who might be off at that time, and they answer the call and they get paid overtime in those scenarios.
Correct.
Hmm.
It's more so I think what the chief's talking about is, and I know because we talk about it every year, and it's about that 56 hours a week. You have one officer on the road and one officer in the dispatch room. And so it can be dangerous for that one officer who's patrolling the street, and even if they're just pulling over,
Yeah.
one vehicle that's got more than one passenger in it, or it's a dangerous situation. So it's more about having someone on call really isn't the answer. It's more so having another person on patrol for that shift. But it's not as simple as just adding one more patrol officer. It takes, and Chief, we've worked through the numbers before. It would take actually more than one hire to really work out an even distribution of officers per shift. So it's a significant cost increase that uh, you know, it's something that the town is going to have to address at some point. We just haven't been in the financial position to be able to do so yet.
And clearly, this isn't the year either.
Right.
Mm.
Do you have available roughly what it would take?
The numbers, not off the top of my head, no.
We've put it together though. It's not with you now, but we do have those
Yeah.
numbers. We'd have to adjust for the new
Pay
union
rates.
contract stuff, but yeah.
I think it's worth looking at. Even if it's not, it's probably clearly not this year, but to start thinking about.
You're going to hear from Chief Antrim next. And he deals with a similar
Yes.
issue. And, both chiefs and I and Allison have talked briefly about, bringing this to the attention of the residents this wasn't the year to do it, but somewhat in a general public safety approach, because both of our police and fire departments not only have major capital needs because they're both housed out of extremely outdated, not meeting standard headquarters, but they're also understaffed to a point where it's a safety issue for them and for the residents of the town. But it's I think let's talk about it, but this year isn't really the year for it. But it's something that we should be teeing up soon.
Yep. Yep. All right, and you gave me the nice segue into what was going to be my last question. Um, the building. I know for years there's been talk about potentially relocating. Has that been considered, and where does that sit right now?
So we've approved funds in a year or 2 years ago at town meeting to do the first step. I think it was last 2 town meetings ago, maybe, but last fiscal year, to start the first step of a building study, public safety building study. I know Austin and Tim have talked amongst themselves more so than I. They've spoke with a design architect architectural firm that specializes in public safety buildings. So really we just need to get that up and going, but it's kind of fell victim to it's going to be a large public conversation. Yes. And it kind of fell victim to the short-term rentals was a large topic. Now housing is a big topic. Prior to that, open space. Prior to that, we were doing hazard mitigation, I think. So all of these major studies that take large public process, that have large public process elements to them, it's hard to run them concurrently. So it's something that we definitely want to kick off, hopefully this summer, and fit it in as the housing topic starts to fall off of the main spotlight. Maybe that's going to be jumping in. And prior to, I know the planning board is talking about a town master plan. So it'd be helpful to have the public safety building study at least significantly completed to be factored into that process down the road.
Yep. All right. Fair enough. Then are we okay with police? Do we move to emergency management, since Chief Fairley, that's you as well?
What's your papers?
Hmm?
We can.
I need to go and find it in this budget, but go ahead while I'm.
Similar to the police budget, they're not huge increases. Emergency salaries we did increase because the storms or events are more frequent now, and we've also added some personnel to the staff. Training salaries, we went up a bit on that. There is a ton of training, not just locally. I know Tony touched upon it, but regionally, even like across different parts of the country. If you think about it, Florida, North Carolina, that area, they get hit with major storms and they know how to deal with it, and they offer trainings that someday we'd like to go to. Dues and memberships obviously is a big increase. There are several different memberships that I'd like to join that not only offer incredible training, but some legal support as well. The first one of the first emergency management trainings I went to. I went with one of the assistants, and they talked about liability on the town and not being ready. And I just looked at them and said, "Wow, we're in trouble." So I really want to get. Tony has done a phenomenal job over the years of building up this budget. If the total emergency management, but looks like 51,000. That's unheard of. Most, like I can tell you right now, Manchester by the Sea is $5,000 budget, and that's it. And they're in the same area as us. They could get whacked at any time. So these increases are for the good. I'll just put it that way. And my one capital request is going to be for a drone. And I can't talk enough about the drone. It can. Tony had a company come in and drone the town, and that has helped us pre storms and then again post storms. But the drone can help other departments and other things. We joined a regional drone team with the Lynn Fire Department under emergency management, and just even on the fire side, we could put the drone up and it's just the fire department. Or if like something high at town hall or at a high event needs to get inspected, we can put the drone up as opposed to putting somebody in a bucket truck or a ladder.
I thought we had a drone.
We have an antiquated drone. The gentleman that did the drone flyover for the town, he's a guru. He took our drone, got it back up and running, but when he went to fly it here, he said there's something seriously wrong with it, and we're better off buying a new drone, just because of the way they handle. He had a difficult time flying this, and he's an actual pilot.
And how much does that go for, the kind of drone we'd be looking for?
Roughly about $15,000.
Cheaper than an ambulance. Oh, okay.
And that's included in your 51,000?
Yes, that's the capital outlay.
Yeah, they've come a long way in a hurry. Every year, these drones are becoming actually far superior and more affordable, believe it or not. I know 15,000 sounds like a lot, but the capabilities are incredible. Like I talked about with those FEMA storm, with when we're filing for damage inventory, I'm sorry, when we're inventorying our damages from storms and we're filing that with FEMA, the photographs and the documentation you can get from the drones live during storms helps an incredible amount. But also, as the chief mentioned, they're able, from using the drone and then cross-referencing it with site surveying with this company that we brought in, we're actually able to measure the amount of material that's on the beach. And we do that in the fall. And then we do it again in the spring. And most recently, we had it done just after that storm that hit in January on that Saturday, to measure how much damage we had, how much material was lost on the beaches. And that came in handy last week, I think, Chief, when you met with MEMA and were able to, they want all that information down to, the inch, and then what does that mean to the penny, trying to estimate what that damage is. The more we can help with that, the more then regionally they file with the federal government to get reimbursement money authorized, and then we get I think 75% of those damage costs from the federal government. So there's that's just one example that produces, helps us get our hands on a significant amount of funds when necessary.
Chief, A clarification question. You were mentioning that organizations that you were interested in joining had legal support. And then after that, you said something about liability. Are both of those included in the 51,000, or are you looking at step one as joining the organization that has the legal support, then getting more information and putting the liability in the budget next year?
Right. So the step one is joining these organizations. Any other questions, comments, sarcastic remarks?
We're good at the we're good at the latter.
Barbara, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Chief, under sarcastic remarks, I'll for you. I believe that when it comes to staffing, the Texas Rangers have a saying, which is one riot, one ranger.
So my question is, Chief, if we're going to have more probably times when the island is closed off, the causeway is closed, is that something that's going to create a need for significant down the road increases? Because people are going to, I mean, there's going to have to be some emergency situations in which people have to get off the island.
Yes. So to answer your question, yes, but we can rely on outside resources. For example, the 2018 storm, we had National Guard here with their high water rescues, and they were able to get people in and out of town. So, but that all comes through emergency management, through MEMA, through their portal. We can't just call up the National Guard and say, "Hey, we need help." This is all through the state, and it's all run by the by MEMA. So there are resources that, if we see it coming, and even if we don't see it coming, they'll get here.
Right. Do we have a provision for communications and internet should the hard wire go down?
Town-wide, you mean, or?
Well, at least for the emergency management and public safety personnel.
I'd have to research that.
I mean, we communicate with MEMA through the portal, right? So
yeah, but if that's all internet based, and what I think it was Mr. Vanderslice said, if we lose internet here, we lose that portal. So it's a great question. I'll have to research how we'd be able to stay afloat.
we'll have to think about what is that, Starlink?
Yes, a sat phone or an AM radio would get it.
Yeah. That's a good idea, Mr. Chairman.
Again, I'm a Russian dictator. Oh gosh. All right. So as the dictator here, any more questions for the chief? Then I think we thank him very much.
Thank you all. I appreciate the support.
And we move on to the other chief.
Good luck.
Thanks very much, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Good discussion.
Yes.
Thank you. And also thank you for this year. I know with the tight budget, thank you for dealing with it. I know you've been working really closely with Tony, and that was complicated this year. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I can thank Mariana for that. So if you ever see Mariana around, thank her.
Okay.
She's the whiz.
All right, Austin, I don't know how you want to orchestrate this, so
Sure.
but I guess I can contribute by going back up here to the fire department budget so everybody can see it.
Sure. I want to first say hello to the two new members. I know Tim
I'm not familiar with Melanie, but it's a pleasure to meet you both.
Hey, Austin. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for volunteering your time for this committee. They do amazing work. Yeah, so I'll give sort of a overview of the budget from a higher level, but if you have specific questions, just stop me at any time. I had asked for quite a bit more increases and had to scale it back a bit, but I was, Tony and Allison did a fantastic job of working to support what were the most critical needs that we're facing in the next year. So one, getting the collective bargaining agreement settled. They addressed a few things that I was hoping that they would come to agreement on. One of that was sort of a restructure of the fire department. Historically, we just had two officers. Well, aside from the fire chief, we had one captain, one lieutenant. The rest were just firefighters. Maybe a little over a decade ago, they created two positions. It was like another step for the firefighter that provide a little extra funds or salary, sorry, for two of the firefighters who are in charge of their shifts. So we have 8 full-time firefighters. There are always 2 on duty. So each firefighter, there are 4 different working groups. So each working group works 2 24-hour shifts in an 8-day rotating cycle, if that makes any sense to you. So with each group of 2 employees, I really want to have an officer on each shift who's in charge, because anytime, well, there's a lot of reasons for it, but one is when we do go on mutual aid, we need an officer on the engine, basically. The other communities expect that, and it's in the mutual aid agreements. So having an officer on each shift was, that went a long way to sort of better organize the department. And I'm grateful that they came to an agreement on that. Also, they did some work to incentivize firefighters coming for calls when they're off duty. That we can get into the staffing discussion after I go through this overview, but we definitely have a lot of staffing problems and challenges. And by incentivizing the full-time off-duty personnel coming back when they're available for medical aids or any other emergency call, I've already noticed a big difference. It's helped. We're having coverage a lot more because whenever the ambulance leaves town, there's about an hour to an hour and a half where we have nobody at the fire station aside from myself, unless we get off-duty members coming back to cover the station. So out of the increases on the salary side, the majority of it was contractual. About 40,000 was dollars in increases directly attributed to changes in the contract. And then there's another 20,000 that's related to the contract, bumping up some of those line items for those callbacks. Also in the wages line item, I had Tony and Allison provide me with 10,000 more dollars for call firefighter wages. I had requested some more than that, and that is to create, to sort of try a pilot program. So our staffing model is called a combination fire department. So we have a combination of full-time staff and what we call call firefighters, or they're paid per call. They don't work shifts. They don't get benefits. They just They have some apps on their phone and a pager, and when it goes off, if they're available, they respond to the station and respond an appropriate apparatus depending on the call type. Those call firefighter numbers have been dwindling rapidly. Ideally, I would have 15 to 20. We're currently down to 5. And we have 4 that are graduating from the academy next week, so that'll bring that number up to 9. I'm hoping to hire another 5 and put them through the academy this year, and then also in the following year. But I've been having a hard time getting applicants who are residents of the town of Nahant, because the way our staffing system works, when there is a call, we need people, they're responding from home, and we need them to get here as fast as possible and as safely as possible. But so we can't hire people who live really outside of Nahant, outside of a 1 mile radius from Nahant, because it takes them too long to get here when we have an emergency. So what some other communities have done as they've experienced these problems of maintaining a strictly call department is they create full-time equivalent positions. So it's a shift that gets filled by a part-time firefighter. They're limited in the amount of hours they can work, so it doesn't trigger benefits. So, one call firefighter might fill a 24-hour shift, and that's all they can fill for that week. But they can still come, respond to any other calls or callbacks. So that has a number of benefits. One, it gives us extra personnel at the station. It will, when the ambulance leaves, there'll be someone else here. We're not removing all of our staffing every time the ambulance leaves town. And it also, if this program works, will allow me to hire further out. If I can have a scheduled shift that I can have call firefighters work, then I can hire from other communities and have call firefighters who are available to work shifts. They may not be able to get here in a timely fashion for most calls, but at least they can work some shifts and help out in that manner. Because the majority of the applicants I do get are from other communities like Salem, Saugus, Revere, Winthrop, those areas. I get, I don't know, probably 60 to 70%, probably 70% of the applicants I get are from those areas, and which is under our current system is too far for us to hire them, too far for them to be useful. So there's a $10,000 increase in salaries, and my plan is, I've been talking with the union a little bit on how to arrange it. We'll sort of figure out some sort of peak call times. Most likely in the summer on weekends, we may add a call firefighter on shift. Another benefit is it gives them a lot more experience and gets them feeling more involved. We're not a very busy department, so the call department, they may get called out 80 to 100 times a year. They work other full-time jobs, so they can't make all those callbacks. They may only come to 20 or 30 or 40 calls a year. So we don't see them a lot. We also do monthly trainings, but I feel this will get them more involved. It'll get everybody more experience working together, get them more experience, particularly with the medical side of things, which is half of the emergency calls that we do, slightly more than half. So I'm grateful to Tony and Allison for supporting that, a trial of this program, and I'm eager to try it out, and hopefully it's successful and we can expand upon it next year, and hopefully draw in some more call firefighters. Other departments Chief, are doing that. Yes, go ahead.
Just wanted to jump in there. So, this is what the chief characterizes as a critical need for the department, but battling the the larger picture of our financial concerns this year. We discussed it for a while and thought our approach is to we're going to be funding this with free cash. So while it's a salary item, it's a pilot program. So in order to accomplish it, we're using free cash to try to see how it's going to work out. And then should it work out positively, and the other items related to increasing the call staff department as well, we'll try to bake it into the budget moving forward. But just so the finance committee was aware of that, I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tony, when Barbara and I met with the chief, I was actually alarmed at the macro trends that we're looking at in terms of the Nahanters who are likely to become call firefighters, and the propensity of call firefighters to swiftly move on out as soon as they have an opportunity to get onto a full-time firefighting position somewhere else. So I think that this problem is a large trending problem for the town that we need to be well aware of. And I laud the chief in coming up with this pilot program to head this off at the pass, because the town is not becoming more affordable for young men who are in the demographic of likely to become on-call firefighters. In fact, very much less so. And it's just a matter of time before these trends hit a critical mass. I see that maybe within 4 to 4 years.
Yeah, we're really already there. I don't want to get too in depth on the staffing at this point, but the number of staff we have responding to fire calls is not even remotely close to what national standards are. So this is becoming very dangerous with the personnel that we do have. We are fortunate that we have fantastic mutual aid partners, Lynn, Swampscott, Marblehead, Linfield, Salem, Revere. They've responded to the fires that we've had the last few years. There are county-wide mutual aid agreements in place, and but one of the concerns is if they have a big incident or if there's a storm and they can't get here, we're kind of on our own, and we do not have enough staff to handle a fire in even an 1,100 square foot single story house. We don't have enough staff based on what the national standards are.
Sorry. I can't interrupt, Austin. I have a question. How many times, how often do you have adverse outcomes due to a shortage of staff, where you're not able to get aid from a neighboring community?
We've been very lucky, but it's, this is not, you don't want to gamble with emergencies, and this really keeps me up a lot of nights. Some of the fires that we've had over the past few years, it's taken 8 to 10 minutes for those mutual aid companies to get here. So we've had fires where we have 2 or 3 of our people operating by themselves, trying to get done tasks that it takes 15 people to accomplish. I'll leave it at that. So we've been somewhat fortunate that we have not had serious injuries because of this or worse.
Right.
But it's dangerous. And it's not just dangerous for the personnel, it's dangerous for the community. It inhibits our ability to be effective at our primary role, which is firefighting. It's a very labor intensive occupation when it happens. And it's difficult to find that balance here in town. The smallest community in Massachusetts as far as land areas, you all know, very small tax base. And we're not a bit busy department. We don't get a lot of fires. So, I'm not advocating for having, another 20 full-time firefighters, but I do think we're heading towards probably needing one more full-time firefighter on each shift at some point. Unless we're very successful with this full-time equivalent program. But that will still take Nahant residents or other people in the area to be willing to fill those roles. And, I have the same issues that Chief Furlong and many other industries are seeing. It's just very difficult finding people who are willing to do this job, particularly part-time. The four that are graduating from the academy next year, they're all doing this because they want a full-time job. I'm hoping they'll be committed as call firefighters and show up for calls. But I do worry that either they will get a full-time job in another community, or which it happens pretty frequently with our call firefighters. They get stolen from, we steal from ourselves when we have some turnover. Usually our full-time positions are hired through civil service. Many of our call firefighters take the civil service exam. So usually when we have a full-time opening, we hire someone from the call department. So that is reducing our numbers, plus a number of them have gone to work for other departments. They usually leave the call department when they do that because many other unions don't allow their personnel to work as part-time firefighters in other communities.
Oh,
So, hey, Austin, sorry, Chief Antrim. Yep. It's a hard habit to break.
It's fine.
Trying to think how to ask this question. So what you've said, how you've said it, and what you haven't said is very disturbing. How long till we know whether the pilot program was a success? It's kind of, yes, that's question one. And then question two is how do we know when we've hit the tipping point that the way we're doing it now is unsustainable?
I'm committed to making this staffing model work. I'm well aware of the town's finances overall, mostly from learning from watching FinCom meetings. But so
lottery will get you nowhere.
No, that's true. So one of the best budget educations you can get. So to answer the first part, the pilot program, I think it'll probably take a couple of years before we have measurable success. Part of that is because when I hire a new call firefighter, there's about a 6-month process to get them hired. And we have to get an entry-level physical exam, background check, motor vehicle record check. Then we hire them. We have them fit for gear. I have a lot of, we interview people, and I have a lot of conversations. I go through, one of the biggest challenges is getting people to go through the Call Firefighter Academy. It's a big commitment. It's only offered in this area once a year in the fall. It starts in October, mid-October, and runs until March. And that's 2 nights a week and almost every Saturday, some Sundays, for, just about 5 months. They do not get paid for their time to go. And these are mostly people with full-time jobs. most of them are married with children, young children. So it's a huge ask.
And are most of the way you describe it, it sounds like they're not doing it because their goal in life is to become a call firefighter. They're doing it because it's a stepping stone to becoming a full-time firefighter.
That's definitely been the trend. Yeah. That used to not be the case when I was hired on the call department. There was a large sort of core group of Nahant residents that were call firefighters and had been for a long time, and they had no ambition for the most part to become full-time firefighters. They just wanted to help out their community, and they liked the, additional skills and training. It can be fun. We do have a lot of fun. We make the training interesting and as fun as we can, and it's kind of a good, almost like a family, really. But I don't know. I think it's just a societal change, really. People just are too busy to give their time, and it is dangerous, and it's can be quite unhealthy. And I think people are far more aware of that and don't really want to take those risks for a part-time position that they get no benefits from. So, I think there's a lot of factors that are making hiring challenging. But so I'm about to sort of kick off a campaign to get the word out that we're seeking call firefighters. I'm hoping to hire 5 more and put them through the academy this year, and do that again next year. Time will tell. The 2 years ago, I went through this process. I thought I was going to have 4 or 5 who were going through the academy, and for various reasons, I ended up with only 1 actually attending, and he was not successful completing it. So, we had a lot of time and effort and money spent, and the end result was no new call firefighters. Fortunately, this year we had a similar process. We had 5 start the call academy. There are 4 who have successfully completed it. They'll be graduating next Wednesday night. And I'm thrilled for that. And I'm hoping we can repeat that the next 2 years. And, if we can do that, if I can get another 4 or 5 graduating the academy the next 2 years, I'll be a lot more comfortable. We'll be in pretty good shape. So I think this is reversible. I have to find a way to, find people who are willing to do this. And
So, Chief,
yes.
question, is this staffing model based upon another cities or communities across the US and the world? And then second, how are you defining success? Since this is a pilot program and we're using free cash, but the hope is that if the pilot program is successful, it will be put into the budget. What metric defines that success for it to be put in the budget next year?
Sure, that's a good question. I'm not sure this year, with the scale of this pilot program and the limited call firefighters I currently have to try this pilot program with. I think it'll give me a little bit of information. I have, well, first, the staffing model. This staffing model, there's essentially 3 staffing models for fire departments in the United States. There's fully career, there's combination like us, and then there's all volunteer. The volunteer and combination departments have been on the decline, and this is, finding people willing to do that, fill those roles, has been a challenge for a number of years, and that is definitely across the entire country. I spent time in Virginia as a volunteer firefighter. I still have a lot of contacts there, and most of the fire stations that were volunteer at the time I was there, around 2005, 2006, all of them now have full-time staff because they just can't find enough volunteer firefighters. So it's definitely a nationwide trend. And yeah, as far as metrics for success, that'll be a little challenging this first year, but I basically, if it works, what I'm going to do is, I have some data on, when we have busier call volume, when we do need a little extra help, and that's when I'll try this coming year. And I'm looking for a lot of feedback from the full-time staff and the call firefighters who will be participating in this. I'll track sort of the calls we have with an extra firefighter in place versus without. I haven't worked out exactly all the metrics, but I have talked to other chiefs. There are other departments in the area that have tried this. Linfield is one of them, Middleton, Topsfield. They are all combination departments like ours, except they're much larger communities. They have more population to draw from. They're also busier and can offer more to their call firefighters. For example, a call firefighter in some call firefighters in Linfield make as much as $80,000 a year, just working that as a part-time job, responding to calls or filling in shifts occasionally. But what all those chiefs have said with this full-time equivalent position is that sort of initially they get a lot of excitement with their call staff, and they'll sign up to fill shifts, and then it gradually sort of dies down, and you end up having the same small handful of people filling the shifts. And then it, the experiences they've had is it gets to the point where it almost just makes more sense to make them full-time because you have only a small core group of people filling all those shifts. But
Chief, as we're looking at what's fundamentally at this point a recruiting and retention issue, does your current budget allow you to have the full initiative that you wish to have to exercise a rigorous and robust recruiting program dealing with guidance counselors, career centers in Lynn and Community College Career Center, even doing a direct mail? Because we're looking at a 1 mile radius of town. You can do a mailing list to every single person that would be of the age that would be appropriate for a call firefighter. None of this would be staggeringly expensive. And I'm just wondering if there's any initiatives that you'd like to have that you don't have the budget to have.
No, nothing budget-wise. I think I have enough to do the kind of outreach that I would like to do. The mailing, that is something I've thought of. I know, that would probably be the one thing that would cost a good amount of money. I'm sure all of you probably have a better idea of what a townwide mailing costs than I do, but I remember hearing in some of the meetings it's quite costly. But one thing I could maybe talk to Tony about is maybe when there's some sort of townwide mailing occurring, I can include a flyer or something along with it, so we're not doing an additional mailing. So that's an option. I've thought of connecting with North Shore Community College, doing some outreach there. But then the next 2 years, I am really going to be focused on Nahant residents, try and build up a core of Nahant resident call firefighters. And then if it seems like the full-time equivalent pilot program is something that's going to be feasible and will be beneficial to the town and the department, then possibly next year or the year after, I'll focus my efforts, expanding the hiring a little further out from where we traditionally hire. If I can offer some consistent shift work for people who live sort of outside that radius that's effective for just responding to emergency calls.
An alternative to a mailing would be a geo-fenced internet-based marketing campaign, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, and you just geo-fence it to town.
Okay. Yeah, traditionally that's kind of been how we've done outreach, just putting up flyers around town and posts on Facebook and other social media. And I'll certainly do that again. But yeah, I do have to be a little more aggressive, I think, this year and next year, finding, getting the word out to residents, because I don't think there's a lot of people using Facebook these days. Certainly not the younger crowd. So I do have to find some better ways to sort of get that outreach. But yeah, social media, mailings, connecting with other community groups, North Shore Community College, maybe even start visiting local high schools or something, just to make seniors aware that becoming a part-time firefighter is an option. If there's somebody who's maybe thinks they want to do this as a career, this would be a good place to try it out. But there is another challenge with the call firefighters, and the cost of it is it does cost about $6,000 to $7,000 to get somebody fully ready to go into the fire academy, and hired and through the fire academy. So between the initial hiring, physical exam, and the other checks that we have to do, and then the biggest cost is their personal protective equipment that has to be fit to each firefighter. To attend the academy, all of their personal protective equipment that we issue them has to be less than 10 years old. So, even though we do have a few pairs of gear that are still serviceable, that currently aren't being used, what I do is I have our gear representative come down, measure all of our new hires. Then we check that against a inventory list of what we have in stock. We try and use some of that if we can. If not, we order new stuff. But a full set of new personal protective equipment is about $5,000 to $6,000 right now per person. So if I send 5 people through the academy, that's about $25,000 in just personal protective equipment that they need. And when I say that, I mean helmet, boots, gloves, coat, pants, and a hood. That's the personal protective equipment. Everything that's going to protect a firefighter from getting burned and cut and that type of thing when they're working.
And if they don't complete the academy, it comes back into our inventory, but there's no guarantee that the next person that shows up will fit.
Exactly. Yeah, that just happened. One of our hires that did not complete the academy, and he dropped out because he's actually likely to get hired by the state police. So he at least withdrew for a good reason. But he was a very large gentleman, probably 6'3", spends a lot of time in the gym. So the gear that we bought for him, is not going to fit many other people, unfortunately. But, so that's a challenge. So yeah, getting back to the budget, the capital outlay is probably something I should talk about, because there's a good deal of funds there, $118,000. $63,000 of that is to replace all of the department's self-contained breathing apparatus cylinders, the breathing air cylinders. The SCBA, or self-contained breathing apparatus, that's what we wear on our back so we can breathe while we're in a fire or a dangerous environment. It's just like a scuba setup, basically. So the cylinders, they're carbon fiber cylinders. They have to be hydrostatically tested every 5 years, and they can only be hydrostatically tested 3 times before they get permanently removed from service when they reach 15 years of age. So we have currently 53 cylinders that have to be replaced next year. So in capital outlay, the $63,000 to replace those cylinders. There's $25,000 for new call firefighter hires, personal protective equipment.
Chief Antrim, is that the entire inventory that we have to replace, or are we trying to rotate through?
That's the entire inventory. We received a grant in 2010, I believe, or we received the grant in 2009, which allowed us to replace all of the department's breathing apparatus and cylinders. So that was 15 years ago. So all of our cylinders are the same age, and they're all expiring at the same time. The packs themselves are very expensive. I'm applying for a grant that I'll be submitting next week to try and get those replaced through a grant. I don't think we have a great chance at getting grant funding for that, just because those packs are sort of just at the age where they become eligible for grant funding, but the grant always prioritizes older equipment. So, it's sort of unlikely that that will get funded. So I may be coming back in a year or two to replace the packs themselves. I did get a quote on that. I don't have it in front of me, but it's it's expensive. I want to say it was like 130,000 or something to replace the packs. I think we have 20 of them. There's one for each riding position on our fire apparatus. We have a few spares for training, and then I keep one in the chief's vehicle. Other capital outlay funds is another 25,000 in there for repairs to the apparatus bay floors in our current fire station. There's quite a bit of there's just some repairs that need to be made to the concrete, and then it needs to be resurfaced with like an epoxy surfacing. So it's $25,000 to get that accomplished, and then $5,000 to replace some of our hose. Our hose, we also replaced all of that with a grant in 2016. So my intention is to spend about $5,000 a year to sort of start replacing it. And we could do something similar with the air pack, so then with the air cylinders, so they don't, well, no, we can't really do that. Yeah, it would be nice if we could do that with the cylinders, sort of stagger them, but because we got them all at the same time, they all are expiring at the same time, and that's going to happen again since we're replacing them all at the same time. So I guess that can't really be avoided, but those are, they're critical to us. We one SCBA cylinder, they technically have 30 minutes of breathing air, but that's if you're sitting completely still. When you're working in a fire, you get maybe 10 to 15 minutes of air out of that before you have to leave the building. And then, when a crew comes out, because they're low on air, we swap out their cylinders and they go right back into work. So that's why we have so many of them, because at a fire, if you have ideally 15 firefighters working, and they're swapping out their air cylinders every 10 to 15 minutes, you go through a lot of air cylinders. Any other questions on this part of the budget before I want to talk about the ambulance next, I think. But I want to make sure if there's any other questions about the budget that I answer those first. Hearing none, I'll move on to the ambulance. That is my other capital request for this year. I've asked for $450,000 to replace our current ambulance. Now, our current ambulance was purchased, or we took delivery of it in 2016, I believe. No, it was purchased in 2016, got delivered in 2017. It's currently in pretty good shape. The typical lifespan of an ambulance is 5 to 7 years in a busy EMS system. We're not that busy, so we get a little bit longer out of our ambulance. Our last ambulance we replaced when it was 12 years old. That was a little longer than we should have gone. The ride in that ambulance became very uncomfortable, and you're also risking when you get to that age of the state inspects the ambulances. We have to renew our ambulance license every 2 years, and the state, part of that is a state inspection where they come and go over everything related to the ambulance very carefully. And we went through that process this past August. And sorry, they're getting a call. The inspector, I shadowed him closely to see everything he was checking. And the first thing he did was very closely inspect the entire exterior of the ambulance, like the cab roof, the box, the patient care box on the back of the ambulance. And when I asked him what he was looking for, he said he was looking for fractures, little hairline cracks that develop. And he said ours looked like it's in good shape, but he says he finds them all the time. And when he finds one of those hairline fractures, the state makes you immediately take the ambulance out of service. And you can go, it can be a long time, months, and very expensive to get something like that repaired. So last year, I started hearing from other fire chiefs that were ordering ambulances that the build times, the time from signing a contract to order a new ambulance to the time that's delivered. So last year, that build time had reached 2 full years. So I was monitoring that to see if that build time decreased. It has not, it's increased. Current estimate is 28 months. So funding is approved for this ambulance replacement, and we sign a contract to order a new ambulance early summer after town meeting. It's going to take 28 months before we receive the new ambulance. So our current ambulance will be about 10 and a half or 11 years old at that point, which is definitely when we should be replacing it. So that's why I'm seeking that funding this year. I do, like Chief Furlong talked about, with the cost of everything going up, and including vehicles. I was shocked when I got that price for the ambulance, because we paid just over $200,000 for our current ambulance. So the cost of virtually the same ambulance has doubled in 6 years. And I almost didn't believe it. So I contacted all the chiefs I knew that had ordered it or were in the process of ordering ambulances. Got a lot of feedback on quotes they were receiving. And, we're sort of in the middle of the pack with that price. A number of other departments are paying in excess of $550,000 for ambulances. Those are ambulances for paramedics, where we just have a basic life support ambulance. So that's partially why ours is slightly cheaper than those more expensive ambulances. But yeah, I'm what we're paying for an ambulance now is, what you would pay for a fire engine just a few years ago. So it is a little alarming how much the price has increased. But we do bill for our ambulance transports, and pretty consistently we collect between, I don't know, it's been very close to about $170,000 in revenue from the ambulance transports for the prior 4 years. This year, or 2023, they may not be done collecting all of that yet, but so far they collected 177,000 in revenue. That was for 253 transports in 2023. The ambulance was called out for medical calls 334 times last year. That does not include, maybe another 30 to 40 calls where we just go and somebody, slipped out of a chair or bed and just needs assistance getting back up. We do a lot of those calls. I'm not including those in that medical total. But it's a fantastic service, particularly with the aging population here. One thing that I talked to Barbara and Dan about, and I've talked to Tony about, is how fortunate we are to have our own ambulance service, because the private EMS industry is also having a severe staffing shortage that really came about because of COVID. A lot of people in EMS left, and a lot of people decided they did not want to pursue that as a career because they don't want to expose themselves to everything. So all the communities around that rely on private ambulances are on a daily basis waiting 30 to 40 minutes sometimes for an ambulance. And that means that they're sending a fire engine to a medical call, and that fire engine sits there for 30 to 40 minutes with 4 fire personnel. They're getting tied up every day. I go to Essex County chief meetings every month, and it's almost always one of the sort of priority topics of conversation for most of the chiefs, because it's such a huge issue for them. And we are starting to see a lot of other fire departments moving towards operating their own ambulances because of that problem, because they already have staff that are trained and experienced EMTs. So they're just starting to start their own ambulance services to provide that. So, Nahant has provided EMS service for over 100 years, I believe. The ambulance used to be operated by the police up until, I'm not sure, I don't know, maybe the 90s. I think in the 90s, with the budget crisis, they did go to a private ambulance company for a few years. It didn't work out very well. So after that experiment, they moved the ambulance to the fire department, and brought the fire department staffing to what it is today, which is 2 firefighters on duty 24 hours a day. And that's essentially to keep the ambulance staffed, and also have fire protection. Yeah, any other questions on the ambulance, or anything else related to the budget or our operations?
I have a couple of questions about the ambulance. Are they addressing any of the issues that make ambulances age out of service? Do you see a trend towards them maybe lasting longer?
No, that really hasn't changed much. There are a couple of different ambulance types. There's a type 1 ambulance, which is what we currently have. And all that means is that they take a heavy duty truck chassis. For instance, ours is a Ford F550, which is a large truck. It has a diesel engine, and it's 4-wheel drive. That was the biggest reason we ended up going to the Type 1 ambulance. Our last ambulance was a Type 3 ambulance, which is a van, basically they take a Ford or a Chevy van, cut the back of it off, and then build the patient compartment onto the chassis. So the front of the van cab is actually directly connected to the box or the patient compartment in the back. One benefit of that is it's sort of a more stable ride. The disadvantage with a truck chassis is that the patient compartment box is completely separated from the cab. So it has a lot more sort of side to side movement when you're driving. And we've had, patients comment on that, but it makes a lot more sense for us just because of our last ambulance. There were a number of occasions in the winter where we got stuck in snow, needed, got delayed getting to calls, got delayed transporting people to the hospital. So having the ambulance on the truck chassis has been fantastic. That truck has never been stuck. I should don't knock on wood so I don't jinx myself here, but
ambulances in general, they're not taking steps in building them to increase the longevity overall. You haven't noticed this?
No, because it's different than, so when we order a fire engine, the entire fire engine gets custom built. With ambulances, it's different. They're just taking a chassis or a cab and engine and the frame from an automotive manufacturer, and then they build the patient compartment box and mount it on the chassis. So what larger EMS organizations do that are a lot busier is they may buy a Type 1 ambulance, run it for 5 years until it's kind of worn out and has high mileage. Then they remove the box from the chassis and remount it onto a new chassis. They may get another 3 years out of it. That way, in Massachusetts, I believe you can only remount an ambulance once, and then it has to be removed from service. So, large EMS organizations like Atlantic Ambulance that we use for our paramedic response, they'll do things like that with their fleet. They'll take an ambulance that's a little older, remount it, get a little more time out of it, and then get rid of it and purchase a new ambulance. Remounting doesn't really make sense for us, and because we're not as busy, when we do receive a new ambulance, if this funding is approved, our old ambulance is still going to have quite a bit of value. I've been monitoring sort of the used ambulance market to see what they sell for. I want to be careful about throwing numbers out because I have no idea what shape that ambulance will be in 2.5 years. But I'm confident we'll get a decent amount of money from somebody buying it, either to reuse the box to mount on a new chassis, or maybe it could be a construction company that wants that diesel engine and chassis and doesn't want to use it as an ambulance or something like that. But I'm fairly confident we'll probably get at least $100,000 when that ambulance is surplus and sold. I haven't yet asked about trading it in. If it makes more sense to trade it in, we'll do that. But in the past, that hasn't really worked out for us. So I'm not confident that a trade-in is the best route for the. I think the town would probably get a better financial deal, surplusing it and selling it, auctioning it. But as far as longevity, yeah, there's not much they're doing. I would actually say they probably, I know fire apparatus the longevity has decreased because of all the emission regulations and electronics that are now on all vehicles, but there's so many more things that can go wrong. One of our fire engines, the first year that we had it, the any diesel engine since 2010 has to have a diesel exhaust system to reduce emissions. And the diesel exhaust system, basically, it has a large chamber that the exhaust collects in, and it injects a fluid that ignites at high temperatures and burns off a lot of the the carbon and byproducts of the internal combustion engine. It sort of burns in the cylinder, so the exhaust coming out of the diesel engine is a little bit cleaner. That's required on, a lot of chiefs have tried to get an exemption for emergency apparatus for that, but that has not been successful. So that system, it has a number of sensors all throughout it. We had one of those sensors go bad on our fire engine, and we couldn't use that engine for the entire summer because you could not get that. It was about a $20 part. There was one manufacturer of it, and there was a shortage, and we could not get one for about 3 months. So, I think ambulances and apparatus are, almost becoming having less life, particularly with the corrosion around here, just because that salt from the ocean and the salt that gets put on the roads just eats away at everything. I do want to mention, the FinCom and had supported replacing one of our fire engines, approved funding for that 2 years ago. We just had an update on that. It is under construction right now. We were supposed to take delivery of that this month, but that has been pushed back until they're currently saying the end of May is when we'll receive that engine. I expect that'll probably get pushed back a little bit, but the engine that's replacing is came very close to failing its annual state safety inspection the last 2 years because of the amount of corrosion on the frame and just throughout the whole thing. It's really, the whole engine is just falling apart, and that's a 2004. It's 20 years old. And it's, we use it as little as possible because it is becoming very dangerous. So I'll be very excited when we get rid of that engine and take delivery of the new one. But sorry, that was sort of a long-winded response to your question. I don't think they're making them have any more longevity.
How does the financing for the ambulance work? We are not expected to pay the entire amount at this point. So I'm assuming we have to give them some sort of a deposit, and we have to demonstrate that there is an appropriation for the full amount. Is that?
Yes. Yeah, we can't really enter into a contract to order one unless we have the funds appropriated, but you are correct. We do not pay up front. I haven't purchased an ambulance before yet. I've been through the process purchasing a few fire apparatus. With fire apparatus, you don't pay anything until you take delivery. There probably is a down payment for the ambulance to obtain the chassis. But I'm not positive of that yet. That would be probably a third of the cost of the ambulance, I would assume, is the chassis, and which comes with the engine and all that.
Yeah. So this one is one we're going to have an appropriation, but not expend the cash for 2.5 years.
Yeah, at least some portion of that funding. Probably, yeah, the borrowing probably may not need to be taken. If there's going to be borrowing for it, that probably will not need to be taken until we take delivery of the ambulance in about 2.5 years.
It's
So
half.
the proposal right now is to fund a portion of the ambulance with free cash and then a portion to be funded through the borrowing. So the article that goes before town meeting, the motion will state that, and then it'll just authorize that half of the borrowing, which we wouldn't take until we had to.
And the free cash, Allison, would
Yeah.
go into a capital account that would essentially roll from fiscal year to fiscal year until
Correct.
we pay the bill.
Yep.
So we're taking, and I'm just like musing out loud here because I don't even know what the implications of this are, but we are taking current free cash for something that will not be paid for another 2.5 years.
Yeah, we've done that with other things. For instance, the public safety building study. We appropriated $125,000 in free cash 2 years ago. And so we basically transfer that out of the general fund and into a capital account that can be, can be spent in future years.
And fire truck too, right?
Yep, we use a portion of free cash for the fire truck. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you're basically reducing your fund balance in the general fund.
Yeah.
Appropriate to a capital account, and the capital account balance rolls from year to year. So whatever's not spent, it can be spent in a future year without appropriation.
Right. You're right. Okay. I understand.
It's sort of like buying insurance. Yeah, a little.
A little, except with insurance, you don't know. With this, we
Oh,
do
that's
know.
right. You don't, it's a risk. I mean, it may end up you don't need it. Whereas this, we know we need it.
Yeah.
That's not the right analogy. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So anyway, Chief Antrim, I'm sorry
It's okay.
I diverted you.
Yeah, does anyone have any other questions about the capital request or budget or our staffing or the building, any of that?
Chief, did you catch that part about the public safety building study when Chief
Yes.
Furlong was? Did you want to add anything to that? You spoke with is it Doors and Whittier?
Yeah, Dora and Whittier. Yeah. So the next step is to create a committee that will draft a request for qualifications and put that out, and then the committee will select an architectural firm based on the responses from that RFQ. And then that firm will complete the study. So the committee would be also creating the scope of work for that, which so there had been a very sort of smaller scale study done of the fire station several years ago. And the architectural firm that did that was kind enough to meet with us, and they shared a lot of examples of recent RFQs from other communities that are going through or beginning either a fire station or police station or public safety building process. So we have a number of examples that they've provided of RFQs in scope of works. We've talked through between myself and Tony and Chief Furlong, talked about sort of the scope of work that we would need, which really is, sort of the work has been done for the fire station to determine what we need for space. I think we'll adjust that a little bit, but the police have to go through that process, which the study will do, and then they'll take the results of that. They'll take the square footage needs of the police and the fire department, put that together with sort of architectural standards and come up with the size of the building that would be appropriate. And then they'll look at sites in town, see if a building like that is feasible to be built anywhere in space that's available in Nahant. If not, they may recommend to keep the two buildings separate and try and find locations. So yeah, the biggest challenge is definitely, well, not the biggest challenge, but one of the big challenges is finding a suitable location. So one great suggestion that Barbara and Dan had was with all the housing study going on and looking at building sites for affordable housing. And there's a potential recreation master plan for this area, and then like Tony talked about, some other plans possibly in the works. So it will be important for all of these to communicate. So I think I saw Michelle on this call. I don't know if she's still on here. Michelle Capano, I was going to reach out to her, have a conversation about the sites that her committee, the Housing Production Plan Committee, has looked at. There are really only a few sites that we're looking at currently for the fire station, public safety building, because there just are not that many options. But what the study would complete, what the study would do is give us the space needs, give us where sites that we have that would work, and give sort of a rough estimate of cost. And then we could go back to town meeting after a public campaign, and the next step would be design, and then after the design's completed, then build, or you can go design build, but do that in one year rather than staggering it. Like Tony said, that's going to be a very involved public process. It's a huge undertaking, but this building is, it inhibits our operations and our training. It's unhealthy. It's anything I have to do to upkeep. We also need a new generator. I have some funds. I'm hoping to get that completed this spring, but every amount of work I've had to do in this building becomes more expensive and more challenging because of how old everything is. The current location of the current generator, we cannot put a new generator there because it won't meet code, because it can't be near a window, or and that whole side of our building is covered with windows. But that's where all the electrical and plumbing is. So that is why we do not have a new generator yet. Still sort of working through how to make that work, where we can locate the new generator, where it's not going to get in the way of our operations, but also will meet code. There's several other projects that have been like that should be a fairly easy and straightforward project, but when you start looking at it, there are all kinds of things that have to be brought up to code. All the walls in the apparatus bay are made of asbestos material, so that drives the cost whenever any work's being done out there. It's just, I don't know, we're long overdue to address these buildings, and I'm really hoping that happens before I retire.
And long-term financial conceptual planning is that these housing plans and potential developments could generate some significant revenue for the town that could contribute to the cost of the large cost of a public safety building. And that's the kind of stuff that we think about in a general sense and very long term.
Sure.
So they do kind of feed into each other.
Definitely synergy. All right. Any more questions or conversation or as Dan would say, snarky comments?
Well, I have an unsnarky comment, which is again, I want to thank Chief Antrim for having worked in a year in which we had tight budgets. And you have told us about all of your, the needs and the discussion that we all had about the call firefighter issue that is important. And so thank you very much. And I know you worked very hard with Tony and with Allison about how to make the budget work this year.
Yeah,
It's still hard. I know it's hard. We know it's hard.
Well, thank you. Well, I really appreciate all of the time and effort that all of you put in to the budget every year. It's a huge undertaking. I really admire everyone who serves on the FinCom. It's a lot of work and it's hugely important. And I'm very grateful for how supportive the FinCom has been, how supportive Tony and Allison, everyone at Town Hall has been, Chief Furlong, the police department. I mean, this is a fantastic community to work in. Very happy to be here. You know, it hasn't always been smooth. You know, there's been problematic times, and but that has just made it that much nicer to experience a time like this where there's a great team working together and supportive, and not fighting over dollars, but cooperating and everyone chipping in to do what we can to provide the best service we can to the residents within the limitations of the budgets. But you all play a huge part in that, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's just we move on to some administrative stuff. Next week, according to the schedule, is school. Do we know? Has anyone reached out to Tony? And
yeah, he's all set. And he's already actually sent his PowerPoint. Deborah and I both have got the PowerPoint. I went to the meeting where he presented it, so I've already, Deborah wasn't able to, so we've been trading off CPC and school as we said we would. And so I've seen the PowerPoint. He's all ready to go.
Okay. Can you throw the PowerPoint into the Dropbox?
Oh.
Or email it to me and I will put it in the Dropbox?
Yes, I can do that.
And or I can do it. I received it as well. I can put it in there tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
And you have the revised one, right? Because he just sent us a revised PowerPoint. Like today.
On Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Oh, today he did?
If he sent something today, I did not receive that.
Today. Maybe it was yesterday.
I got something today.
It might have been yesterday. It was the day he presented it to the school committee Tuesday night. So I think it might have been yesterday.
He updated it to reflect what feedback he got from us, I think. Just a few little things.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. I'm looking at my email right now. Yep, I got the amended version it was yesterday.
Yep.
Okay, I'll save that in the Dropbox now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow creeps in its petty pace.
And can I ask a question? Do we know, have we hired a new superintendent yet?
No, they're down to, I believe, 2 finalists, and they're going through their final stage of the interview process.
I'd like to make sure that when Tony presents next week, that we all do something, just saying whatever. If there's anything else, a letter, I'm sure, to let him know working with him has been just wonderful. I mean, he has been on top of every single budget. And that he's actually been giving money back to the town. I mean, he's worked as hard as he could to do that.
Yeah.
And to work with him through the years, and his budgets they're just I know you know this, Allison, you'll agree. He has beautiful budgets. I mean, it just every single little tiny detail. So I want to make sure that he hears from us
So
how
should
much, and
we,
it's not just the budget, but everything, that he hears from us how much we've appreciated everything
Barbara,
he's done.
would you would you like to draft a letter from the FinCom to Tony P?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Deborah and I will do that. We'll work on that together. Sure.
Or is that like out of bounds for us to do that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
That's a good idea. I like it. Deborah will work on that.
Okay, cool. And
Thanks,
last question,
Bob. Good idea.
um, have you been in touch with Lynn? Or does their schedule accommodate the
They're
end
all
of
set too. They're coming on the
March
28th.
7th.
Yep.
on?
Or is it 27th? Whatever it is, she's all good with that.
All right, excellent. Okay. So that's that. Any other questions about schedule before we go on to what? We go on to minutes? No, we don't go on to minutes. I want to take like 2 minutes and quickly run through for the committee. How do you post a meeting in case somebody else has to do it? Or so I'm gonna once I figure out how to share a screen again in Zoom. Um, Diane, the town clerk has a set of written instructions for how to do this, but I'm just gonna like go whiz through the basics of this. So the first thing you do is you go to Zoom. So it's just go to zoom.com. You log in as either Tony or Kristen. I am not going to give you the credentials in this live meeting, but you will find them in Diane's instructions. So you have to log in as either one of those two folks, right? So here you are in Zoom and you schedule a meeting. This is just incredibly obvious, right? So you put in the time, the date, the duration of the meeting, and that's about it. I mean, this is just standard fill out a form kind of stuff. I always uncheck the waiting room, right? And you save it. When you save it, maybe I can do it with, oh, cancel. All right, so cancel. If I take this existing meeting, yeah. Once you save it, you get this new thing at the bottom that says copy invitation. You copy invitation, and it creates this whole block of text that tells you, oh, here's the meeting link, here's the meeting ID, here's the passcode, here are all the phone numbers you can call, blah, 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 blah. And you copy that to the clipboard. So far, so good. That's step one.
Step one.
That's step one. Yeah. This is a simple two-step process. Uh, then you go to, do I even have it open here? That Nahant? No, that's not Nahant.org. Then you go to the town website, Nahant.org, and you choose this option right here called Submit a Committee Notice. You click on that and you get another form you fill out. So you just fill this out. So who's the committee? It's the Advisory and Finance Committee. You have to put in the times of your meeting again. You have to put the organizer, and if you're doing this, well, I think the way it works is if you just type in your name, it'll create a new one. Once you've done it once, you're on the list, so you can pick your name. And then, and here's comes a bit of a trick. You have to put in the agenda whatever it is, whatever it is, that's going to show up in the meeting posting. And then I remember way back when over here where we copied all that stuff from the Zoom invite, you paste it in here. And then this is the only other trick, is you have to come to the meeting link, highlight it, and it's hard to see, but you click this little button that says Insert Edit Link, and it makes that bit of text a clickable link. So anybody that goes to the town website and pulls up the meeting can just click on that and it'll take them to the Zoom meeting.
Where was that? Where was that little button? I didn't see it. What
Little
is it?
button. It's this button right there that looks like
A link. Okay, got it.
yeah, it looks like a link in a chain.
Yep.
Tony, I mean, not Tony. Bob, did you say that Diane is going to send us a kind of a cookbook how-to about this?
We're going to put it in the Dropbox, and if you want me to email it to everybody, I will email it to everybody too.
Dropbox is fine. Thank you.
Right? And then you fill out the rest of it and you hit Submit Event. And that's it. That's all you have to do.
All you have to do.
It sounds funky. It is a little funky, but it probably takes 5 minutes. And you have to do it 48 hours, well, longer than 48 hours before the meeting, or we run afoul of the open meeting law. Once you hit Submit Event, somehow it wends its way to Diane, the town clerk, and she will officially post it, and she will send you a confirming email.
And Kristen and I and
How did I
Alice,
do, Tony?
he nailed it. The link part is the biggest, so it makes it so easy for people, to just jump by clicking the link. Some committees forget to do that part, and then people have trouble getting onto the Zoom. So making sure that is a clickable link is very important. But I was going to say, if Allison, myself, or Kristen are also always available to help you guys get something posted in the event you need help.
Bob, is there some secret reason you're telling us this right now?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing.
I'm moving on to become the chairman of a very small third world country.
Is it a tombolo?
Is it a tombolo? Now there's a thought. We're not going there. Okay, so that is that. We can stop sharing here. And we need to approve minutes from last week, do we not?
We did not.
We did not, but we do, right?
Correct.
Were they sent to us? Did I not see them?
I did the minutes last time. Was I supposed to do something with them?
Oh yeah, you did send them to us, right? Yeah, they look good. Yeah.
All right. So does anyone want to make a motion?
I moved to minutes from last week.
I'll second.
All right. So all in favor? I will vote aye. Dan?
Aye.
Deborah?
Aye.
Melanie?
Aye.
Who's next? Tim?
Aye.
No, Zoom has moved everybody around. Who did I miss? Barbara?
Aye.
Okay. Did I get everyone? I think so. All right. So unanimous vote in favor. And then that's it, unless anyone else has any administrative stuff, questions. No? Public forum is who from the public? I don't think there's anyone left. All right. And any other just general questions, comments, conversation, snarky comments?
I was just gonna say at some point, we gotta think about, who's gonna help fill the role of Julie and putting the book together with Allison. We don't have to do that tonight.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
You don't fight over it.
Yeah, I know.
Minutes were hard.
I noticed. All right. So I think a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second,
Okay. In favor, Vanderslice, aye. Barbara,
I.
Deborah,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
who did I miss? Dan?
Aye.
That's it. Unanimous vote in favor. We are adjourned. Thank you all. See you
Thank
next
you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks.
Tony and Allison.
Good
Bye.
night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Bye.
you, guys.